Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Happy 2019. Wanted to give an update of kind of the state of all of our projects that we've been engaged in. There's been a ton of momentum that's been building in the last few months, and we're finally at a point that we can start showing you the crazy things that we've been up to. So the biggest change is all of our elements now are published on webcomponents.org. Previously we just had a ton of them, but now we actually have all of them. And they're published on NPM, so you can actually get them off of NPM or Yarn registry. We've adopted going forward, what the standard way of integrating web components is, which is ES modules-based workflows. We've also had to drastically improve our tooling capabilities as a result of that. And so you can actually go and get our tooling that we use. It's in an abstracted form. It works for any web component development, going from zero to everything you're about to see as far as the behind the scenes. So it's called Web Component Factory. Highly recommend checking it out. It's WCFactory. Search for it. It's also published on NPM. We use that tooling to create this repo. It's called a mono repo, and it effectively allows us to work on all of our elements as well as churn out brand new ones rapidly. So our tooling, has automatic HAX integration. It has auto documentation. It has a lot of really good things going on that you should definitely check out. So as a result of all this, we effectively have boiled HAX up into a H-A-X tag. So now the integration is so easy and standard, like across everywhere we'd ever put it, that I actually made a code pen the other day. So this is a code pen. It's off of my BTO Pro code pen. I'll leave it in the notes. But you can see that the HTML, and there's really no CSS, basically just to get some padding on this. You can see that the HTML here is effectively just an HAX tag, and then some minor representation of what's in the content area here. It may look like there's a lot of JavaScript, but explaining this, there's an event that fires that is, hey, the HAX store, which implements all the definitions, is ready to go. What do you want to give me? And then I kind of just force feed it this one big JSON blob, which is fairly standard, minus some keys that I use for demo purposes, as to how to talk to all the different sources that you can integrate with in this. So the way it looks in here, this is the big thing. This little blob at the top of this is a standard way that we can basically load our web components on the client side into just about anything. From my testing over the last few months, this should hit about 98% of all browser targets. If you view this code pen as of this, when I publish this in Safari and Edge, you'll get some errors. We're still working on what is going on there, because if I publish it to any other location, it works just fine. So anyway, this is HAX. So HAX is, because of this, in part, the transformation over to this, HAX has started to undergo a lot of UX improvements, a lot of performance improvements, a lot of stability improvements, because finally we're not doing kind of this nitty-gritty, converting things over to a different format. We can actually start to dig in and improve what we had been working on. What is the meaning of life? So maybe you want to ask someone a question. What is the meaning of life? End of the silos, life question. You see I have it reflected over there. And then, I've shown this tag before. You win. Yay, the meaning of life is you win. You could click for more info to get taken somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. So all of these aspects of what was building in HAX works now. It worked before this conversion, but now this is being delivered again via ES modules. It's a big deal for performance and for loading. So, just illustrating that these things work, I can search for ElmsLN. I just searched YouTube, and this is the new player too. So now we have a new video player that's pretty far along. We actually sort of rolled this video player into production using HTML imports. We haven't quite gotten the ES modules into production yet, but you can see there's a lot of stuff that you can make with this out of the box. And again, our tooling has been built in such a way that we're going to start being able to crank these out even faster with a higher degree of performance, all that good jazz. So HAX is alive and well, and it's made the jump into the modern and future of the web as far as the way at which it's interpreted and added to things. So I got a funny question. HAX the web. If I go to haxtheweb.org, someone said, you know, for how easy it is there's a lot of code here and there's a lot of writing, and I agree. This was intended as like a splash page, and honestly, we were just kind of messing around with stuff at that time. And I've been getting a lot of requests for documentation, and I've intentionally not been writing it because I've told myself until I can use HAX to write the documentation, it's not ready to even write the documentation. So I'm not going to cheat. It's going to be done via HAX, and it's going to be done right now, in part in this video, to show you the state of a project I'm very excited about called HAXCMS. So HAXCMS, you know, if HAX, what that editing interface is decoupled. HAXCMS is also leveraging that decoupling, implementing something called JSON outline schema, and then creating the lightest weight possible CMS backend to generate microsites. So, you know, I've said before, if HAX gets us a huge portion of the authoring experience, that's a large reason why you adopt a system. Do you really need a system? So I'm going to start documenting HAX and HAXCMS simultaneously in the same site. HAXtheweb.org is going to eventually fold into this little microsite that I'm going to show the status of as I work on it. But effectively, we can swap out themes by kind of just tweaking variables. Now, this is very early on as far as, you know, certain workflows. I'm going to be editing JSON files, and by early on, I mean this works. It's just you're not going to go and give these sites out to any random person, right? You could set up a WordPress multi-site and give people some training and they could use it. This isn't at that level yet. Think of this more closely aligned with like a Jekyll, just as far as, you know, there is some complexity. You have to understand what Jekyll is and run some commands, that type of stuff. But the goal is to get this to the point that you can just give it out to people really easily. So I have the code for HAXCMS running here, and I ran, I love using DDEV. It has support for a couple different flavors of local development. But so I ran DDEV start, and it fires up and then says, hey, go to this address, I'm online. So when I do that, I get this little page. And the first thing you have to do is you click this button in the corner, and it says, hey, log in, and the default is admin. This is intentionally simplistic. One of the goals of HAXCMS is not to get into the business of user management. So if you think of the scope of the project as like, I need to manage my universe of these little tiny sites. And I use the phrase little tiny sites, but you could actually start to get into some pretty sophisticated stuff. Chuck Lavera, who also works in Elms Land, is actually using HAXCMS to develop kind of their group's website. And it's not ready to release yet, but the stuff he's been showing me, it's getting rather sophisticated, kind of leveraging JSON, much in the way that the views in Drupal works to display, you know, types of items and things. So anyway, think of this more as kind of like in the GravCMS, Jekyll, static site type of space as far as the scale of your sites, which actually ends up being a lot of use cases, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, so I made a site, which I clicked add a site, and I fill out this form, and then I get this that says, hey, HAX the web. And I click it and say, I want to access that site. It takes me to part of my file system. So let's look at why this is so useful, in my opinion. So when I ran through and I created that, it created a HAX the web folder under my underscore sites folder here. So this is the HAXCMS, you know, directory tree, if you will. And then it's kind of just stamps down a boilerplate of a site. And then whenever I'm editing files or working, you know, I'll show in a minute, I'm going to add a page. It's actually pegged to a physical file on the file system. So you see there's pages/welcome index.html. That actually is this physical file. So if I click to another file, go back to this one, hit edit, hey, there's HAX, and it injects really quickly because it's actually always there, just behind the scenes. Another fun piece is if you post this to a server that would have PHP, it'll use the JWT, which is JSON Web Token, for you to get an authoring experience, yet end users just see this web page without the editor. Right, so that's kind of a neat capability of this. I didn't want that in there, so let's remove that. So perhaps I want something on the home page, right? I'm trying to replace the HAX the Web homepage. Now it does have some useful information, like some areas that HAX has been in the news and some past videos that were of interest. So I'm going to go to this, click, and we'll just steal the source for that one because I forget where that video was. Come over here, I'm going to do add, I'm going to paste that in. It's going to know that that can be served as video. So I'm going to put this video in, and this is going to be DrupalCon 2018. Why can't we be friends? This is more or less what the gist of that talk was. So I'm going to add that in, and we'll make that smaller because this isn't really as big a, this isn't as critical a video. I don't, to the left, I don't actually, I don't want that. I want more of a layout piece, I think. So I'm going to take this, and I'm actually showing, you're going to say like some of this is clunky for sure, and I'm kind of showing that on purpose, to be perfectly honest. So this image placeholder, swap that out with a video, and then I want to turn that into a video player. And the source is going to be YouTube. Update that, okay. I'm going to take the video player that's in scope. I'm going to duplicate it. I think it'll stay in there. Excellent, did, okay. Then I'm going to move that one over there. And heading, I don't want heading to be in here. Get rid of that description. I'm not going to have two videos, but I am going to find that little HAX short from the old site. So in part, I'm showing some of the, you can see like there's some rough around the edges areas, and I want you to see that. I want you to see the actual state of what this really is. I'm going to put, I'll probably do let's do 2 columns here. Yeah. Okay. And then deselect that. I'm going to have to put in a heading. Move it up above that. Past HAX videos that are useful. And then DrupalCon 2018 was really a turning point for talking about the project. Also, here's a really short, what is this, that you can show to management. And so, okay, I'll swap that one out. There's my, I think that was my new link. Oh, there we go, okay. So you saw there was, I hit that link, swapped it out real fast, and it didn't actually refresh in place. I have noted that around the edges with the video tag itself. But so then there's our little HAX the Web video, and then I should be able to center position that guy. Okay, and we'll center position that one within its own container. And then I could take the whole grid plate, and I actually could scale the entire grid plate and center that if I really wanted to. And now I've got this 2-column grid that I could actually move the whole thing as one grid plate up and down. But I'll make them a little bit bigger. I don't need it to be that small. Okay, so now I probably shouldn't start things out with a 1-hour video. Like, watch this 1-hour video for the very first page on the site. So let's take this one. I'm going to copy that address, but I'm actually going to throw in that home page. Why do I need to go anywhere? I'm probably going to need to reshoot this in some capacity, right? and we'll make it, yeah, that's fine, do it that size. And then I'll take this one, and I'll just have to reword the other thing. There we go. Do that one as, so I did these two as light theme. HAX, we will HAX at Open Ed 2018 is what that talk was, the audience that was originally intended for. Oops. In this one, DrupalCon Nashville, DrupalCon 2018. Okay. So, all right, so now let's open this file in the background here. So we'll open index. You'll see this is the contents of what this file was. Now I'm going to hit save, and now you see what it is currently. So another really cool part of this platform, right? That's really readable, that page in question, right? So I made the path to this welcome and then index. You could go directly into this and manipulate this stuff in order to achieve the same thing. So it has some extra spacing in there, which is not a huge deal, but I'll remove the spacing. But I did forget to take this piece out before. Really short, what is this? So get rid of that, and we'll do, here are some talks from national conferences. Okay. Open Ed and DrupalCon 2018. Conferences in 2018, right? So if that's faster to do, 2018 conference talks. Okay, and then the 2018 is implied. Those are in that order. So I'll hit save here. Now that was saving just a file on my file system. Come back over here. I'm not going to see it reflected instantly. I don't want to suggest that that's what would happen. But if I come back to it, there we go. So it's HAXCMS is loading the contents of that page off the file system. I have it presented here, and then I could, similarly be like, well, I wanted that to be an ampersand, save, and now there's my ampersand, right? So this is the type of portability of content that we're expressing, right? None of what I just produced is tied to the HAXCMS platform. This is a static web page you could take anywhere. That's another one of the principles of this. Now, as far as these outlines, right? So the differentiation between HAX and HAXCMS. HAXCMS is what you're looking at in full context here. HAX is just the editing experience, and so now I've integrated HAX with HAXCMS in this case. So, HAX is sitting in the front end. It doesn't have a concept of like saving a file upload, for example. It also doesn't have a concept of a hierarchy of content. But if you're putting content on the internet, it's going to have to be in a hierarchy of some kind, right? Even if it's just a whole bunch of blog posts that are flat. So at the moment, because as I said, this is still kind of at like a Jekyll-ish state as far as your knowledge that you need to have to work with this. You have to edit this data by hand. Now I'm working to, we're working on elements that will replace this. It could be a week, it could be, a month. I don't know what the timeline for having additional visual elements in here to do this stuff would be. But this is effectively the data model that you're seeing. Is those pages are delivered via just these little tiny JSON blobs. And so if I want to add a new page, I could just plug in another JSON blob. So what is HAX is the next one. So I want to show another aspect of this. It's going to generate on its own these UUIDs whenever we add a new page. But I can modify this because the UUID is not readable. So let's change this to what is HAX. And I don't think, yeah, there's no what is HAX on here. So let's just do what is. And so what is it? Yeah, we'll just make it what is HAX, right? So that's the title, location. It has a UUID, which I don't entirely care about. Let's hit save. And then on the file system, you see I have a what is. And that what is now the source of that other one in question. Although if I look at it, it would appear that it just renamed the directory now. So there's a validation issue right there. So I can look at this and we'll say, okay, what caused that? Well, it's because I'm copying and pasting at the moment. So my UUIDs that I'm using are not universally unique. It's why they're useful, right? So I'm going to move this in, right? So that's just going to be like that one, and this is going to be, sure, whatever. We'll just manipulate these UUIDs a bit. The UUIDs are not completely universal in what I'm currently working on here. That's just kind of a number value that's generated. So let's save. We'll look again. There we go. Now we see we're back kind of in alignment where these the URLs that are in here as far as location, right? Location, and then this thing with the S's at the end has a location. The ID and this location ID don't need to necessarily match each other, but you know, it doesn't hurt. So go to these different pages and you see it's loading different address at the top, which then invokes a different page to load. Another cool thing with this approach, right? Like, so I goofed something up right there. Now for one, as we move forward with this little site's going to be in version control, right? So these are going to commit those files every change. So if I screw up something fundamental in my data model, like because, you know, this is going to have some developer backdoors into it, you're going to be able to manipulate this stuff. I won't lose everything. Now in this case, right, I've got what is HAX, but that's not the wrong page, right? The welcome is supposed to have the content of like welcome, duh, which means it's in the wrong place. So if I look at this what is HAX, right, it's got that content. Well, let's just take that and we're going to go in here. We're going to edit this to be welcome. Okay. So now the home page will get a welcome, and then I'm going to take the index of welcome. Whoops, sorry, not that. I'm going to take what is, and I'm going to paste it over top of the welcome there. So that updates those contents. And now when I go, I might have to do a super refresh. There's some pretty heavy caching that goes on with certain aspects of DDev that I have to kind of fight through. So let's see, it should be in welcome, right? Look in welcome and index.html. I mean, it's there. So it didn't appear to update to the latest version of the content, but it is the content of the file system. So I can go around adding different pages here, right? I'm still working on wiring these buttons together, the statefulness of those. So let's work on why HAX. So give you, a couple bullet point reasons as to why HAX. So I think we have a list element. Let's see what type of list. Okay, we just have a task list. So this wouldn't be subsequently, it should be why HAX. And why HAX works across platforms. No content lock-in, right? So your content isn't locked into your platform. And right here, this is illustrating array binding in web components as far as binding to a format called JSON schema. This is one of the most ridiculous tags in the entire set of tags. It's almost as complex as HAX in order to just manage forms and things. But so reasons why HAX, completely open source and cross-platform. In fact, I should probably make that completely open source. And then, whoops, I deleted that one there. What's silly? Completely open source and cross-platform, even back to IE11. So we'll just give it, let's do extensible. All right. And so then from there, I'd have that list item in place. I've got my heading of why HAX coming from there. And then I might make another heading, and I'd say this is we'll give it a H4. So this heading would be cross-platform. Oops, I wrote cross-platform here twice. So like part of this is I goof something up, but the other part is like this is really what you would do in building something, right? I'm starting to build out rather sophisticated web content. We're at the 25-minute mark of this video, and I've basically been describing most of the time what I'm doing while I'm doing it. We want to make authoring and everything else, you know, completely fluid. Everything modern, even IE11. Should say and IE11 like that. Okay, so cross-platform. That would be because we adopted two words, component standard, and I should probably highlight that, and we'll make that a link, and that's going to go to webcomponents.org. But let's go to webcomponents.org, and maybe I actually want to go to this because we're talking about browser support, right? So we should probably look at the specification, or maybe not. Maybe that's fine to reference it that way. So let's go back to there. Okay, so because we've adopted the web component standard in the development of both HAX, authoring experience system, and HAXCMS, content management, we've effectively create, no, that's not what I'm talking about here. Everything we create and compile via our open tooling, the open tooling, we would be referencing, of course, WCFactory, github.com/elmsln/WCFactory. We can support about 98.6% of all browser traffic globally without any server-side rendering. And so that's a point of contention, certainly in the component community, is around that aspect, right? Do you render this? Do you use this stuff for developer efficiency, and then use servers to actually render it and then spit it out to end users in a format that's going to hit everything? Or are you okay with relying on front-end processing? Now, personally, I care about front-end processing because I want the workflows leading up to modification and just traceability of this stuff to be really clear. If you, say, want to use Webpack, you can use these things in Webpack. That's not currently what we're doing. We're currently having all of the assets kind of deduped, and then you get the whole site. So especially if you're going for, like really fast time to first paint, is it possible with web components? Yes. Is it possible with HAXCMS? Not as you're going to be seeing it in this video. It's going to take a little bit to load because right now the focus hasn't been on that part. However, that part is kind of trivial by comparison to what's being achieved. So just wanted to make note of that. So this means that you can use the latest and greatest of the web and not have to constantly worry about a library changing. Right, and so this is a big gain or big win for web components, is to be able to build things in a way that works everywhere. So let's hit on the no content lock-in aspect, and that's a big deal for me personally, working in education space. So the elements that make up HAX can be delivered via a CDN or installed locally. This means that the functionality is tied default to the browser and not to the platform itself. Huh? Because that's what you'll say. Well, think of all the complex functionality of any site ever built or used. Then add content to that site. Now move that site in your mind to another server. What has to be migrated to maintain the content functioning that isn't actually content, right? So if you've ever had to write advanced template logic just to put things into columns, if you've ever had to maybe download modules or plugins for your CMS just to get, like a video to be responsive or whatever the thing is, how would you maintain those capabilities if you migrated somewhere else? So because we've actually decoupled the platform from the design assets and the majority of the functionality, right? I could, for example, take this quiz. And so the quiz that I'll make, and I think it's called quiz or there's multiple choice. So I'll ask you a multiple choice question. Is this decoupled? And so I might hide the title of that, and it might be like, is this decoupled? So in the metadata, I'd have something like decoupled question, right? So I won't show that to users. Is this decoupled? I mean, really decoupled. If it would work on other web pages. And so maybe the answers I give are like, there's no way it actually is. Say, I think, or maybe you'd say what most people say is decoupled, like that, like what the heck are you talking about? And then of course there's, yeah, this really will work anywhere. Now, anywhere is with the reference, of course. Now I can check that, cool, that works. How many systems do just that and have to go through all kind of purchasing procedures or software development teams discussing how to achieve that one little thing that this does right here as a throwaway? I'm going to randomize the answers too while you think about it. So I've got that there and say, okay, I'll answer your question. I don't entirely understand why this is relevant. So I'll hit save. Okay, and yeah, this really works anywhere, so I got the right answer. I might say decoupled, right? That's not the right answer. But let's look at what's going on here. So under the hood with that page, right, and this is under why HAX. Maybe it's under what is HAX. It's saved to one of them. Or maybe it didn't save that page to one of them. So what I can do here is I can go hit Preferences, Developer Mode, Export Panel, and I actually have the contents of what this is. So I'm going to copy that. Let's go to our CodePen, and we'll illustrate what I'm talking about. We'll go to Export there. I'm going to paste it in, Import, and there's that question. And it functions the exact same way in this CodePen that it does in HAXCMS. Now the reason that that's possible is because all of the logic and the capability is on the front end. Now, does that mean if I copy and paste this into my SharePoint instance or whatever that it'll just magically work? No. The browser has to have an understanding of what that tag means, but everything in both HAX and HAXCMS is effectively just boiling down to like a tag there. So we can go back to this Yahoo. Maybe I'm going to hit inspect. We'll see if there was an error thrown or anything. I don't see any errors thrown associated with me saving that, right? Like I've been messing with the structure of these documents a little bit. So I'm trying to make sure, it is reporting that it's saving it. I have been getting some issues with DDev as far as these files being where they claim to be. Ever since moving, there's a setting that they have that basically has to do with like really high performance syncing of that material. So it's claiming it's saving. It might actually be saved correctly in the Docker container, but you're not seeing it reflected in these files. So that's something I'll have to look into. But you know, I do really want to edit this stuff and show you, like, this is kind of the state of these things, right? There's a lot of work that's still being done as far as stability in these areas. But, oh, there, I mean, see, there's the page there. So, like, the container that this is sitting in knows there's content, but, like, my file system hasn't updated to reflect that content is the case. Yeah, there it is. See, so that's something wonky with the container that it's sitting in. So this last page, integrations. So what I had before, as far as integrations listed, I'm going to need to get back to, because we don't have all of these just yet. But I mean, those are planned as far as, you know, it's going to work with Drupal and as a standalone. So I'll just leave that for now. I'll add another page in here. This is a neat little part of this. It's actually validating the JSON. That's something neat that I threw together the other day. So yeah, this is kind of the state of HAXCMS in this case. So let's do what is HAXCMS, and then this would be like item, what is HAX, and maybe that would help, you know, make that word 5 here. Save. It has the title of integrations, so then I'll want to go in there and update that. What is HAXCMS? And it's not HAX, it's HAXCMS is the part I care about. Okay, so that I could describe what the difference between HAX and HAXCMS are, because it's an important difference between the two. But for a lot of this stuff, I need rather advanced, you know, I need like images of what's going on. So let's add an image, because I haven't showcased that part yet. So I have an image on my desktop. I'm going to drag and drop it into this little add content area. It's going to say, where do you want to upload this to? So in the future, you know, we could have support from multiple places to put these files, but right now it's just my local file system. And then what that did, and hopefully the file system is, you know, is reflecting that locally. Yeah, see, it actually uploads this file to this directory, and it's not showing that. So let me see if I SSH into the container, if I'm able to see that, because it's interesting, because it's actually there. So files, yeah. See, so I wasn't crazy. There's the picture that I just uploaded, and then I bet if I look under pages, I bet you'll see other stuff there too. Now yeah, you do, okay. So I'm wondering if part of this file synchronization aspect, which has nothing to do with HAX actually, but I'm wondering if it's related to, I've been getting into weird stuff with VS Code, where VS Code is running and like has files open, that then other things trying to manipulate them get kind of mad. Anyway, so I just drag and drop that file, and it is actually in the files directory. So I showed a second ago there. So that's the picture1.png in files, and then HAX says, hey, how do you want to present that picture? And in this case, this is an image I use quite frequently, and I need the entire thing to be showed in this case. So let's do styled image, right? So I don't want it to be rounded. It couldn't be kind of offset as a card, and now we won't do the box part of it. So a large diagram that is showcasing the relationships between HAX and the user flow for students to learners, students to instructors to the institutions they live and work in. Another fun thing with this tag, if I type the word image, it gets mad and says, hey, you shouldn't have the word image in there. So just some minor accessibility checking right there. So the caption on this is going to be ngDLE as it relates to HAX, right? So that's me uploading a piece of media from my file system. I've got it up here now in a content management system, if you will, if you want to call HAXCMS that. So I can get rid of these things. And so this would be, my way of positioning HAXCMS and HAX in the universe. How HAX fits into your organization. HAX is trying to, HAX and HAXCMS are trying to lead you to education's Roku remote moment. By that I mean, world where you have a very simple little box, HAXCMS, that works in a that can be controlled in a completely uniform, simple manner, HAX, that actually pulls together a universe of content and media from across your organization. HAX helps bridge the knowledge gap between content creators and content. I guess it would be like content publishers. It eliminates most of the work involved in publishing that none of us want to do anyway. So this would be a chart illustrating that, and I could make other things. I could throw in a video associated with that, or put in testimonial, give this a license. Actually, giving a license would probably be a decent idea to this. So let's save that page, and we'll go back to, where's that page that had all the content on? There we go. So this page, we should probably throw a license. I don't like highlighting licenses, because that should just kind of be, everything should have a license, but license. No, I don't want to do it that way. I want to actually make a license. Okay, so we'll do license tag, and license is, title is HAX the Web, and the source is haxtheweb.org. The license for this work is going to be Creative Commons, non-commercial, share alike. Actually, I don't care if you use it. Yeah, let's do non-commercial, share alike, right? And the creator, in this case, is going to be Molendijk. There we go. So now I just provided a semantically accurate license to my work. No biggie. There we go. Let's save that. Okay. Now I've got a nice little license that's slapped on that page. So I'm going to cut it here. Obviously I have things to go in and fix with this. But you get kind of the idea of where this is going, and hopefully a bit of why I believe so much in this concept. This little website, I could take this folder and copy and paste the folder someplace else. It's the web stuff, and it's going to function the same way. So if I change that over to stuff, it wouldn't, it doesn't actually need HAX. Well, it needs the file sync, whatever this crazy file sync thing isn't working to actually work between the servers. But it allows for a level of portability that's unprecedented. I'll leave you with one last little thing associated with this. I said it's for more than just courses and websites. I'm going to take the site.json that this is creating and edit it directly for a second. So if I change this to say simple blog, and then we'll go back, and this is a setting that you'll be able to edit on the front end. Of course, again, if it actually synced that file, I feel like the bridge between the file systems got busted. Yeah, it has to have. So I'll go into the quote-unquote server Yeah, and edit it directly. That must be an experimental feature. It's not that, it's simple blog. So if I change that one value, what I'm changing is what HAX is claiming it's themed as. There's all that content now displayed in a medium style blog. So what is HAX? But I can go and I get all those files loaded up, and they look exactly the same, but as represented through this this other design. How do I edit it? The authoring experience is the same across these, themes, if you will, which is not the same in a lot of systems, unfortunately, from my, more than 10 years in the Drupal community. If I want to edit the outline and the relationships between those, right, we'll have a unified editor for that that's agnostic of the theme. And, down the road here, if I want to change what theme is actually used and switch this over to, we have a developer theme, we have some other ones we're working on in these different flavors. Right? The idea is that all of these pieces have very clear lines separated between them to give you maximal flexibility. So, happy 2019.